Democrats are apparently investing all their hope in. And, the only thing, the Republicans have a real shot this time around. The only thing that will, the thing that will really help Hillary is if the Democrats if the Republicans shoot themselves in the foot with infighting, with fractionalism, or nominating a candidate that's so far out of the mainstream that they can't get the support of independents and a handful of Democrats to win.
Obviously, Florida has a couple of candidates in the race. Former Governor Jeb Bush. What did you think about his performance last night?
I thought Jeb Bush, who I covered, who I interviewed numerous times, was off his game last night. I think his lack of campaigning over the last number of years showed. He was so low-key you could fall asleep. Bush is a real wonk, and unfortunately, details, he complained today that they didn't get into details and they didn't get into policy, but unfortunately, a debate is not the place to do that because people are actually looking for entertainment. They're looking to be entertained, and that's what they received last night with a big field of candidates who, some of them went at each other, and that's what people like to see. Listen, you've got an electorate, a younger electorate especially, that are used to seeing reality TV where it's all staged fights and staged controversy, wrestling, cage matches, the ultimate fighting, all that stuff, and they want to be entertained when they watch these debates at this stage. Now, when it gets into the general election and there are debates between two people, it's a little different.
You also had a comment about the optics for Governor Bush last night.
Yeah, I think that, as I said, that his glasses, as seen through Fox TV, were not the best. They shaded his eyes. And things like this can affect the race, even as superficial as it sounds. Now, if you look at him straight on, from other angles, he looks fine. But last night, the lighting and such threw a shadow on his face. His people, with all their money, should have been able to see that ahead of time. He should have stood at that podium, and it should have been lit exactly the way it was, or have a stand at the podium.
Yeah, no, those glasses are definitely too small on TV. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, what did you think about his debate?
Well, Marco Rubio actually did bring out some interesting points. He's a fresh face to most people in the country. He's young. If he was on the stage with Hillary Clinton, it would be a dramatic difference, and probably could help him. He's very, very well spoken, and whether his philosophy, what he said, I noticed that some websites today were taking shots at him for not telling the truth about some of the things he says. I don't know that, but as I said, I think he did a pretty good job of differentiating himself with Bush.
For Donald Trump, you've seen a lot of candidates over the years. Were you expecting? Do you think he did better than because I was expecting a more of a spectacle, and I don't think even with his swipes at the Fox News anchors, I thought he was a little bit more controlled. I expected worse.
Well, I think that, remember that usually you see him filter through the media. So he says outrageous things. You're dealing with political reporters who generally cover things that are very, very managed and orchestrated. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy who's saying everything that comes to the tip of his tongue. And yes, some of those things were probably taken out of context, as he complained last night. However, Trump is what is Trump. He's a loose cannon, and there's no way he's ever going to be elected president. But as was brought up last night, he touched a nerve in the base of the Republican parties, and especially on immigration. And I think he's valuable in that respect, and he's fun. It's fun to watch, but his act is going to wear thin very soon.
Well, the ratings came out. I think it was the second highest rated TV program, only behind a big Sunday night football game this year. So people really wanted to watch it. Who do you think didn't perform well and might think about dropping out into that second tier right away?
They're worth about $10 million apiece.
Well, I think Ben Carson is clearly over his head. I think that I think that Ted Cruz has been surpassed by Trump in outrageousness, and I think that Rand Paul is just came across looking foolish, in my opinion. But we'll see. Rand Paul has a whole cluster of true believers, but you saw with his father, it only gets to so many votes, and it's a vast minority of votes, even in the Republican Party, because the things he stands for, the libertarian things he stands for, includes a lot of stuff that most Republicans don't stand for. So he can only get so far in the Republican Party, in my opinion, and I think last night he looked testy, and Cruz and Paul were basically grappling for attention with Donald Trump, and I think they came off second. I mean, people will accept it from Donald Trump because Donald Trump is essentially an entertainer. That's how they know him. But the other guys, they're supposed to be senatorial.
Right. You talked about Hillary being a very...
I think, by the way, I think the surprise to much of the nation is the Ohio governor, who comes across looking folksy, in my opinion, who comes across looking sensible, and now whether he's too moderate to win primaries in some of these states, I don't know. But he comes from a very large state. If the story he told is true, it's a pretty good selling point. I think, by the way, the last one I'll mention is Walker. I don't think he's still an unknown. I know he's beloved by a large number of people, but he didn't show the reason why he should be beloved last night. He was kind of quiet.
You mentioned that Hillary's flawed. Talking to local Democrats, do they think that Sanders or O'Malley are an option? Do they hope Biden actually gets in? What do you get? What's your feeling?
Well, I think that when you say Democrats, it's like saying Republicans. There's a lot of different factions out there,
right.
but the vast majority of the activists in the Democratic Party in Broward County are Hillary people. They were 7 years ago when Obama ran. Obama had very little support in Broward County. Now, there wasn't a real primary here. That's the year that the National Party penalized the Florida. But I would say that most of the people here still support Hillary. I think they are very disturbed by some of the news that's coming out. They're very disturbed about the beginning of her campaign, which looks rocky, frankly, and insular and defensive. So, but campaigns, here's the thing about politics, Tom. Campaigns matter. And there is a long road between here and next November. 13 months. She's going to have a whole bunch of money, and she's going to have a whole bunch of money to change people's opinions in the same way that the Republicans will use it, which is to tear down the platform of the other side and to scare people and so forth and so on. So.
Well, buddy, I want to thank you for joining us and letting us know your take on it last night. And anybody else who wants to read it, you can head on over to browardbeat.com.
Hi, this is Reagan.
Thank you.
Can I help you?
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.